I talk a lot about nutrition, and I have made it clear many times that I'm not a dietitian, nor do I play one on TV. There are 2 dietitians that I consult with on a regular basis. Actually, we've added another dietitian that we consult with on a regular basis, and we don't write diets. That's illegal in the state of Alabama. We stay within our lines. We make recommendations. But after studying this for as long as I have and working with the people that I have, I know quite a bit about that subject. But when you go to addressing nutrition, usually it causes a lot of frustration. Well, I'm going to share with you the approach we use for nutrition success today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness. If you have any questions about this particular podcast, which I hope you do, because I hope this actually adds some real relief to your nutrition program, or if you have any questions about any other podcast, or as always I say, if you have any questions for Katie, we have a podcast coming up where we're going to answer those questions. Please call us at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, just like Levi Garrett, Garrett at personaledgefitness.com. That's, of course, my email address. Personaledgefitness.com is our website, and Personal Edge Fitness is our Facebook page. You can contact us any of those areas. We check those on a regular basis. Hit me up on Twitter at Team PE if you're so inclined. Nutrition, diet. D-I-E-T, as somebody said, the horrible 4-letter word. When you talk about nutrition, talk about diet, you might as well use the word confusion. Because if you heard my talk, either heard me in person or you've listened to the podcast series starting on podcast number 24 about the lie of food, you understand that there is a lot of confusion in nutrition. And I say there's a lot of intentional confusion in nutrition because there's a lot of money in keeping people confused. And I know it can be very frustrating. It's frustrating for us as professionals. When I go to speak about that in a meeting, in one of my Rotary meetings, my Vistage meeting, down at a chamber meeting or something, somebody finds out that I'm a personal trainer. They, from time to time, have somebody give that kind of roll of the eyes. That you're going to talk to us about, getting rid of all the bad food and stuff I'd eat. And you don't want to know what I ate last night. You're going to tell me eat green leafy stuff and good food and whatever. And the reason for the frustration, the core of it is the confusion that exists in nutrition. But the reason mainly for it is because of the hate. H-A-T-E, the hate involved with nutrition and nutrition counseling or nutrition recommendations. I use the air quotes because a lot of people that are making nutrition recommendations should really just shut up about it. They really have no clue what they're talking about. That is especially anybody that talks to you about not eating bad food. There is no such thing as bad food. Anybody telling you that is telling you a lie. They're lying to you. And as far as I'm concerned, Garrett Williamson at Personal Edge Fitness, the president of Personal Edge Fitness, said, I called them a liar. There is no such thing as bad food. Ask any reputable dietitian. And that is where the hate comes in. I'm going to do a podcast coming up on this. We've talked about, you probably know of fat shaming. We are ultra sensitive now to fat shaming. I think that one of the most absurd things would be to have some sort of week where we do fat shaming awareness because we all know that's a bad thing. I'm not a fan of it. Never been a fan of it. Never partook in fat shaming whatsoever. But what we're doing now, and what I got a podcast coming up about, is that we're doing something far more dangerous than fat shaming because this happens to be killing people, and that is celebrating obesity, glorifying it. But, sorry, I got way off the subject there. But the reason for those things, the reason that we have such an obesity epidemic, in Garrett Williamson's opinion, and I have a lot of proof behind this, is because of not only the confusion, but this lie of good food and bad food. But when I'm running into people or talking to people about this, I usually get sort of a defensive statement before they'll ask me, hey, what should I do about nutrition? They'll follow that up with, but look, now I do all the good things, and I don't eat the bad stuff, and I do. It's amazing because of all that misinformation out there. Plus, what this whole podcast is about today, there's a much more effective way and far simpler way to attack your nutrition. And with our corporate wellness program that we're working with Corporate Edge, this is the approach we use there. We're adopting this approach. It's basically the approach we've always used, but I didn't have the right terms for it. And it's really easy to understand. When dealing with nutrition, dealing with your diet, dealing with what should I eat, how should I eat, whatever, your best method, easiest to understand, whether you've listened to The Lie of Food and understand all the aspects that I've ever said, you want to make it simple? When you think of your food plan, when you think of your nutrition, think of consistently good versus occasionally perfect. Now, you probably understand that before I even go into it. Consistently good versus occasionally perfect. It's a very simple concept. To go deeper and explain it to you, probably already figured it out. It's so easy. I actually got a quote. I wish I had that quote in front of me. I use it in The Lie of Food. I want to say this is one of the dietitians from Australia, but actually it has a great quote about this. And I'm paraphrasing here. If your diet program looks good as a whole, over the whole broad spectrum of it, if it looks good as a whole, that is far more valuable, far better than making those perfect little choices. I had a dietitian at ACSM Summit, had a fantastic dietitian get up there and actually opened my eyes a lot to the approach. I knew the basic concept. There's no such thing as bad food. That's ridiculous. It took me years to develop that and prove it and show the history of it, where it all came from. But this dietitian got up and just said some wonderful things. And one of the things they said is they talked about how she would run into her clients at the grocery store. And if they were in the vegetable section or the fruit section, they just rushed up to her. Oh, they were so glad to see her. They wanted her to see what was in their shopping basket because it had all the good food in there. And she said, I happened to be on the candy aisle, and she went in deep talking about the M&M bag and said, and she got really excited. It was wonderful. Her dramatics were fantastic. She said, have you seen this thing, this pounder? Oh my gosh, it's awesome. It's fantastic. And she said something later about, I get the pounder. It's a great deal, but I just don't eat the whole pounder. But anyway, going back to being in that aisle, she said she would see a client there, and then she stopped and said, did you know that a shopping cart can leave skid marks? She was talking about how her clients would run away from her because they were in the bad food section. And she said, no matter what I tell people about the fact there's no such thing as bad food, that is still beat into our brain because of the lie of food. And the point she made the entire time was talking about the fact that, look, as a dietitian, I'm going to look at what you're eating. I'm not going to give you a piece of paper and say, look, adapt your lifestyle to this food plan. By the way, folks, that never works. I have countless clients that ask me, hey, just write it down. I'll do exactly that. What you're trying to tell your fitness professional or your nutritional professional is you're trying to tell them, hey, look, I'm going to adapt my life to this food plan, and I'm going to change everything in my life, my kids, my spouse, my job, my requirements at home, my responsibilities, my extracurricular activities, my vacation. I'm going to change all of that to fit this food plan. That never works. It fails every single time. Please don't ask for that. What is far better is what this dietitian, any reputable dietitian does, and what we do here at Personal Edge. Let me see what you're doing for a week. And we heavily implore people, beg them, please write everything down. And the reason a lot of people won't write anything down because they're used to people in their family, their friends, their loved ones, a professional, a doctor, another personal trainer, going and finding that cookie they ate and beating them up about it and feeling like a champion because they beat up that client or that person or that friend or that spouse or that loved one or that kid about having a cookie. And the person that is doing the antagonist, the one that's actually berating the other person, friend, client, spouse, family member, child, they feel like such a champion. Look what I did. I pointed out how bad you are. And that's why a lot of times the clients don't want to share everything they're eating. Let's see everything that you're eating. Then let's look at what your goals are. And let's look at what modifications you can make that will fit your lifestyle. And part of your lifestyle is things that you like. Ice cream, cookies, a beer, whatever it may be. Let's find out what modifications we need to make in order for you to have all that and still reach your goals. And as I've said many times in this podcast, if we had just spent 1/10 of the overwhelming dollars, time, efforts, initiatives, failed initiatives of correcting the type of food everybody's supposed to eating. We spent 1/10 of all those resources on really educating folks on amounts. We would not have an obesity problem. Guarantee you. But if we look at that diet as a whole, and yeah, we've got fresh organic spinach for dinner over here. That's one of our items. Isn't that wonderful? That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's more important is, just as an example, caloric control throughout with protein at every meal. That's it. I didn't even talk about a specific food. Caloric control with protein at every meal. That's consistently good. You may not know that one of those meals that person had a potato. How horrible. Or maybe after lunch, they had dessert. Oh, gosh. Isn't that awful? Instead of worrying about that, we're worried about being consistently good. I had a Catalyst client, and it was a personal training client, and it's a Catalyst client, and in the Catalyst program, we do make modifications to food and what have you. We do temporary food changes, as we say, just to get things under control, and it is basically an education. That's why it's a lifestyle change program. It's 16 weeks long. It's an education so that people understand how to make the right decisions, not the right food choices, the right decisions and changes to their entire nutrition program to fit not only their goals, but also their lifestyle. In this particular client, I love this example that he gave me. After we had kind of cleaned out his brain, and that's what we're doing a lot of times when we're making food changes, we're changing the brain. We're not trying to change the body. The body will come. We change the brain, the body will follow. But once he had control and he could understand, he could think clearly, he really knew what was important to him. And he described it. He said, after a run, I really like a cold beer. I'll forego dessert. That is not as important to me. I'll forego something else. But it's a reward. It's something I really enjoy. I look forward to. My last mile, even though I love running, I'm actually thinking about that cold beer. But he said, I don't enjoy the second one. Now, you may sit in yourself, you may be a beer drinker. I'd have to have two. That's not the point I'm making. What the point I'm making is that he found out what was really important to him. And in a program where you're trying to be exceptionally perfect all the time, you would rule out that beer, rule out the dessert, and rule out all the bad food and fail miserably. He had a successful program because he identified what was important to him, and he's consistently good through his program. And you're consistently good through your program after a run of cold beer. It's an awesome idea. Not only is it okay, that's why I hate the word cheat meal. That's not a cheat meal. That is part of his nutrition program. That is part of his lifestyle. It's part of what completes him. It actually makes him happy, makes him more effective, that's going to actually make him live longer. Garrett just said that drinking a beer makes you live longer. Nope. Look at the point I'm making. His program is consistently good throughout. Therefore, not only is he physically going to get the results he wants, because his calories are under control, he's hitting protein at every meal, and he's he's having these things that he likes. It's part of his program. But physically, he's going to get there. Mentally, he's going to get there. He is satisfied in every way, not just satiety, but he's satisfied in the fact that he's not missing out on what is really important to him. Because he realized real quickly, to him, that second beer really wasn't that important. At that point, a successful physical outcome was more important than that second beer. But that first beer, that's part of his level of wellness. That's part of his happiness. That is part of what we're looking for in Personal Edge. Had another Catalyst client. When we started adding things back in, we discussed what we're adding in and the reasons why. And if you saw this person at the beginning of the program, you would think, if you're thinking of that typical lie of food, that bad food, what do you think this person eats? Oh, he eats candy and ice cream and cake and pies and whatever. You know what was really important to him? After we cleared everything out, after we kind of figured out where our head was, what was really important to him? Popcorn. Why? Because popcorn just tastes so darn good? No. He likes it, yeah. But what he found out was popcorn was related to the time that he and his daughter sat down and watched movies together. And it was a tradition that when they watched a movie together, they sat and ate popcorn together. Don't fool yourself in thinking or asking the ridiculous question, what kind of special popcorn was he eating? You understand real quickly why it's so important to him. It's tied to a happy moment in his life, tied to a fantastic family situation, tied to an importance in his lifestyle, that bad food. The reason I say popcorn, people refer to it as a bad food. I literally had a client come back when Sugar Busters was this huge be-all, end-all, and cure-all, just like gluten-free was, just like Atkins was, just like, quit everything and do this new fad. I had a client walk in when I was eating popcorn in my office and tell me how many carbs were in that and how bad it was for me. It was ridiculous. All that misinformation out there. But what was really important to him was popcorn. Why was it important? It was because of the relationship that he had with his daughter. Just like the cold beer. It's a reward after I like beer, and it's a reward after I get finished running. It's something I enjoy. I feel accomplished when I've done that. And it was a moment of time, reflection, got his head straight. Probably made him a better, I know it made him a better boss, made him a better businessman, made him a better father, made him a better spouse. Because he's looking at his program and being consistently good versus occasionally perfect. Occasionally perfect also, when we take that approach, which many of us do, when we take that approach, we can not only do this to other people as far as being critical, but we'll also do it to ourselves. I'll give you 2 examples. The one I used for years, this is hilarious because I used this example for years about when 3 ladies go to lunch. 3 ladies go to lunch. You've probably heard me do this example before. And the first one orders a salad with some chicken and some light dressing. The second one orders a salad with some chicken, but she'll have no dressing whatsoever. And the third one orders a hamburger. And you've heard me say in the example, who do you think they talk about? Who do you think they make fun of? Who do you think gets poked fun at or talked about afterwards? In other words, at the table, who gets to wear the crown? Who gets the dunce cap? And you know what I'm talking about. They're going to talk about the person that got the burger. They're eating the bad food. I've heard that's bad. I've known about red meat being bad since, believe it or not, if you don't know, you've known about it since 1950, actually 57. Based on a lie. Never was true. Never been proven. Lipid hypothesis. Never been proven. But that's food shaming. And the reason I said that was so funny is the fact that I told about that example for many, many, many years and literally had that exact example happen. I had 2 clients that were 2 pieces of a threesome that went to lunch, and the client of mine, it happened to be a client of mine that actually ordered the burger, told me I was at lunch and I ordered a burger. And I said I was so proud. She knew I was going to be proud of her. She wanted a burger. She ordered a burger. I've been on her big time about making sure she's getting in protein. And she'd been avoiding red meat because of the lies associated with that. And she had a burger and she was proud of herself. I had a new client that came in and was working with me and could not wait to get in to see me a week later to tell me what my client had for lunch. I can't believe she did that. I asked that client, what did you have? And they couldn't remember. Oh, I think I had a salad or something. Overly fixated because that person had the bad food. That person is looking at a consistently good program versus occasionally perfect. But we do it to each other. We do it to ourselves. I've told you before, the very good friend of mine, I don't want to mention his name. He probably wouldn't mind, but Baptist music minister. It's one of the monumental moments in my training. And I'm very upset at the way I did this, but he was wonderful to give me this example. He'd been trying so hard about losing weight, and he came in and he gained like 4 or 5 pounds, and he was going over what he'd had the entire weekend, trying to figure out why I gained 5 pounds, and it centered. He finally found the answer. I had a cupcake Saturday night. I lost it. I mean, I had him in the hamstring machine. I'll never forget, clamped it down and started really berating him. And I've asked his forgiveness. I hope we're still good friends now, so hopefully he has forgiven me. But how so absurd that was. It wasn't a 5-pound cupcake, but he was beating himself up because he'd been consistently good and he'd had a cupcake. Now, the reason that we had the 5 pounds, we figured it out. He'd gone overboard on calories throughout the weekend. And he actually had a drop the next day because your weight can fluctuate. And weight is gravitational pull of the earth on your body. It's not a measurement of fitness. And so he hadn't, gained this 5 pounds of fat by basically putting a cupcake on his body. But he was sitting there beating himself up, torturing himself on a Monday morning about a cupcake on Saturday night. It was a Baptist music minister. It's not like he went out and got drunk, had a DUI. He had a cupcake. But yet the occasionally perfect mindset teaches us to do that. So when it comes to putting together that program, it's very simple. Love to have you come here. Love to have you work with you. You can do it yourself. Download MyFitnessPal. Make sure you have a device that goes along with it, a Fitbit, a Garmin, an Apple Watch, something that you can pair with that device so it'll track calories out. Enter all your information into MyFitnessPal, or there's other software out there. I happen to particularly like that one. It's a free app. You can do it on your computer. You can tie that device to it, and it'll give you the amount of calories you're supposed to take in, and that device will adjust those calories depending on your activity because your caloric burn is different every single day. Forget the macros. Don't waste your time with that. When you get into looking at macros, that's looking at the problem with a microscope. If you can see the problem with the naked eye, you don't need a microscope to fix it. Make sure that your calories go to 0, and make sure you've got your amount of protein. If you want to look at any kind of macros, fine, look at protein. But if you got protein every meal, every day, you're going to hit your protein goal. Boom. Do that. Then if you can add 300 calories of good old Cammy's Old Dutch ice cream, I highly recommend it. Love it. Got our party coming up on June 3rd. They come there and serve ice cream. Love it. But if you look at it as consistently good versus occasionally perfect, you're not going to beat yourself up. You're going to get to your success. And you can simply go, okay, look at those calories. If I'm going over, then what? What can I cut out? What can I change? You make that decision. We can help you with that. And what we do about it is we don't go, okay, let's find that cookie and beat you up about it. No, we're gonna go through, we're gonna find out what you're eating and what your entire program goes, and then talk to you about how important was the cupcake on Saturday? How important was the baked potato? Just the small baked potato. Maybe that cupcake was more important than the baked potato. Let's substitute one for the other. Or maybe you're taking in way too big a steak. I mean, there can be a lot of things, a lot of changes that we can make. But we're going to make changes that fit you, fit your lifestyle, that are easily amendable. I can make that change. It's not a giant leap. A giant leap is I'm going to eat nothing but green stuff and drink protein shakes, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That's going to fail. I'm going to do sugar busters all my life. That's going to fail. And I don't mean to pick on that diet. I'm not, and y'all have heard me say before, I'm a fan of diets. Any diet that's not illegal or moral fattening, I'm a fan of it. This right here, for those of you that are listening to this and aren't watching on social media, is my water bottle. I've got rubber bands on it. That's how I track my water. That is a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that works for me and helps me to drink all the water I need to drink. Diets that aren't illegal or moral or fattening are gimmicks. They're fantastic tools, but you've got to know how are you going to live after you get off that quote-unquote diet. And I'm telling you, the consistently good over an occasionally perfect is the best way to attack that. If you have any questions about that, if I can help you, if any of us can help you put that together, help you make sense of this ridiculous way we look at nutrition and settle the confusion. If you're interested in hearing the talk on the live food, if you don't get a chance to listen to the podcast starting with number 24, there's a 4-part podcast on live food. Let me know. I'll let you know next time I'm going to speak about it. I'd love to have you hear it. But if you have any questions about it, reach out to me at area code 251-278-3343. That's area code 251-278-3343 or area code 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personalizedfitness.com. That's our website and our Facebook page. Hit me up on Twitter at TeamPE to help you weed through all this ridiculous confusion about nutrition. Take the approach of consistently good over occasionally perfect, and I promise you, you do that, you'll definitely reach your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.